In 2002, rangers in Kenya's Samburu National Reserve saw something that broke every rule they thought they knew about lions. A lioness named Kamunyak was walking through the reserve with a baby oryx trailing behind her, not hunting it, not stalking it, walking beside it, the way a mother walks beside her cub. Oryx are prey. Lions kill them for a living. This is not a metaphor. This is biology, written in blood for millions of years. And yet, here was a lioness letting an oryx calf nurse from other lactating females in her pride, grooming it, defending it from hyenas that came to pick it off. She didn't do this once. She did it at least 5 separate times over the following years, adopting oryx calf after oryx calf. Most didn't survive long. Other lions in the pride eventually killed a few of them, and she kept doing it anyway. This isn't a one-off story. It isn't even rare once you start looking for it. In 2008, a bottlenose dolphin off the coast of New Zealand was documented swimming with an orphaned pilot whale calf, feeding it, surfacing with it to breathe, raising it like her own. In Quebec, scientists tracking a pod of beluga whales in the St. Lawrence River found a lone narwhal swimming among them, fully integrated, fully accepted, for years. Domestic cats have nursed orphaned squirrels. Dogs have raised piglets, kittens, even baby foxes, as if the difference simply never registered. In Brazil, researchers spent over a year watching a troop of wild capuchin monkeys carry, groom, and protect an infant marmoset, a species a quarter their size, as if it were their own. Elephants take it even further. Kenyan researchers have documented matriarchs adopting orphaned calves with zero genetic connection to the herd. Calves from entirely different family lines, raised with the exact same vigilance, shielded from predators the same way, mourned the same way if they died. For an animal famous for its obsessive devotion to bloodline, this is almost impossible to explain, unless the devotion was never really about bloodline at all. Maybe the strangest case of all happened at a zoo in Russia in 2012. A dog named Lucy started nursing 2 Siberian tiger cubs after their mother stopped producing enough milk. Zoo staff expected to separate them once the cubs grew and their predatory instincts kicked in. Instead, the tiger cubs grew up treating the dog as their mother, following her around the enclosure, sleeping curled against her, showing zero interest in treating her as prey. The dog groomed them, disciplined them, swatted them back into line, exactly the way she would her own puppies. 2 animals on opposite ends of the food chain, and neither one seemed to know it. Here is why none of this is supposed to happen. Raising young is expensive. Every calorie spent feeding, carrying, and defending an infant is a calorie stolen from the parent's own survival, or their own offspring's survival. Evolution is supposed to be ruthless about this. Animals that waste resources on creatures carrying none of their genes should, in theory, get outcompeted by animals that don't. Investing in another species' baby gives you nothing back. No shared DNA, no future ally, no payoff of any kind. By every rule evolution is supposed to follow, this behavior should have been bred out a long time ago. So why does it keep happening across species that aren't even remotely related? The leading explanation has a name: a fixed action pattern. Parental instinct in most mammals isn't triggered by some sophisticated recognition of "this is my biological child." It's triggered by something far cruder, a certain ratio of head size to body size, big eyes, a high-pitched distress call, soft, rounded features. These are the exact same triggers that make humans find puppies and human infants adorable, for almost identical reasons. When something hits enough of those triggers, the parenting instinct fires, whether or not the creature underneath those features is even the right species. There's a hormonal piece to this too. Oxytocin, the same bonding hormone responsible for the bond between a mother and her own newborn, can be triggered just by proximity and repeated contact. Spend enough time near something small, vulnerable, and dependent, and the hormone cascade begins treating it like family. Species be damned. Kamunyak, the lioness, was reportedly a young, possibly first-time mother without cubs of her own when she made her first adoption. Her maternal instinct had nowhere to go, so it went somewhere. What's genuinely strange is how fast this system can be hijacked once it switches on. Researchers studying rats found that virgin female rats begin acting like full-blown mothers within about 2 days of constant exposure to pups that aren't theirs. No pregnancy required, no birth required, just repeated contact with something small and helpless, and the hormonal machinery does the rest. Scientists call this sensitization, and it's been documented far beyond rats, in sheep, in primates, in birds. The pathway that creates a mother looks less like biology checking your genetic paperwork and more like a switch that almost anything sufficiently helpless can learn to flip, given enough time and proximity. This lines up with another pattern researchers have noticed. Cross-species adoption happens most in animals that have lost their own offspring, haven't had any yet, or live in social groups where caretaking instincts are primed and ready to fire at the first vulnerable thing that crosses their path. The instinct doesn't check credentials, it just looks for the signal. But here's where the story turns dark. Because somewhere out there, a species has figured out exactly how to exploit this soft spot. Cuckoos are famous for it. A female cuckoo sneaks into another bird's nest, lays a single egg among the host's own, and disappears. The host bird, usually far smaller than the cuckoo, has no idea anything is wrong. She incubates the egg. She feeds the chick the moment it hatches, even after that chick grows 3 or 4 times larger than her own body. Even after it physically pushes her real offspring out of the nest to die. She keeps feeding it anyway, because the chick has learned to mimic exactly the right begging call, exactly the right open-mouth display, every signal that overrides everything else. It isn't even a close mimicry. The cuckoo chick is often a completely different color. It doesn't matter. The trigger fires, and the instinct takes over completely. Cuckoos aren't even the most extreme version of this. Brown-headed cowbirds in North America do something similar, except the host species often raises the cowbird chick alongside her own, watching the imposter outcompete her biological offspring for food, right in front of her, and keeps feeding it anyway. And underwater, certain catfish species in Lake Tanganyika have evolved to sneak their eggs into the nests of mouth-brooding cichlids, fish that protect their young by holding them inside their own mouths. The cichlid scoops up what she believes are her own eggs and ends up incubating a predator inside her mouth, one that sometimes hatches early and eats her real offspring before she even notices anything is wrong. In other words, the same softness that let a lioness raise an oryx calf out of something close to compassion is the exact same softness that lets a cuckoo chick manipulate a warbler into starving her own children to death. It's the same switch. One species stumbles onto it by accident, through grief or a hormonal misfire. Another species spent millions of years evolving to flip that switch on command, with total precision every single time. Which raises an uncomfortable question. If a hormone and a handful of crude visual triggers can override millions of years of evolutionary self-interest in both directions, how much of what looks like compassion in the animal kingdom is really a choice? And how much of it is just a switch, sitting there, waiting for the right combination of eyes and cries to flip it? Whether the thing flipping it deserves it or not. Kamunyak never got to raise a cub of her own to adulthood. She spent years pouring everything she had into animals her own species considers food. Maybe that was instinct without an off switch. Or maybe, species and bloodline aside, something in her simply recognized something helpless and decided that was reason enough. And maybe that's the part evolution never accounted for. That somewhere between instinct and choice, there's a version of love that doesn't ask what species you belong to before it decides to save you.